Hello YouTube, it's me Fuzzy Cow, and today we're going to be talking about the Earth Pulse theme deck. This theme deck was requested by Flamejacker, so I'd like to thank you for putting an interest into this channel, and I hope that you enjoy this video. The first thing I'd like to say is that this deck has a lot of coin flip heavy strategies, so if you're lucky, you may win. If you're not, you will definitely lose. So the first card I'd like to talk about is Groudon. Groudon has 130 base health with 2 decent attacks. Rock Smash does 20 damage automatically and 20 more on a coin flip for 2 energy. This is a pretty standard attack. I like using this attack. It's pretty efficient. The other attack is Break Ground. Break Ground does 100 damage to your opponent and 10 damage to each of your bench Pokemon for 4 energy. Because you're investing 4 energy into this, this is basically a all or nothing attack, in my opinion. When you use Break Ground, you're basically saying, I hope to win the game in the next 3 or 4 turns. If you cannot win the game in 3 or 4 turns, you will probably lose because you have so much invested in Groudon. Next, we're going to talk about is Meditite. Meditite is a decent starter because he has Smack. For 1 energy, you can use Smack that deals 20 damage and helps you win those early trades. Medichan is pretty good as well. Medichan has the Omega Barrage, which means he can attack twice. It also has 90 HP, which means he's semi-vulnerable. Calm Mind is a attack that I never use. Yoga Kick is great though. Yoga Kick for 2 energy, you can deal 30 damage, but it is not affected by weakness or resistance. The fact that it's not affected by weakness is kind of a big deal. However, Omega Barrage means that you can use it twice no matter what, so it's almost like every attack, or every Pokemon is weak to Medichan. However, 30 damage is not very interesting. 60 damage also is not very interesting, particularly when you add in the effect that happens when you add a headband to this, because then you're doing 50 every turn, which means you're dealing 100 damage to your opponent each turn. 50 every attack, sorry. So Medichan has a lot of potential, not in this deck though. It's a fairly good Pokemon, but it's not one that's I'm really praising. Rhyhorn is fairly great in the beginning. He has 80 base health. For 2 fighting energy, you can use Takedown, which deals 40 damage to your opponent, 10 to yourself. This means that he will eventually go down to attrition, so be wary of that. Rhydon again is falls to the same category as Rhyhorn. It falls down to attrition. Has 100 HP, which is fairly low for stage 1 with Rhyhorn's HP capabilities. But anyway, so he also has 2 attacks. For 3 damage, you can use Takedown, which does 50 this time, and again does 10 to yourself, so you're vulnerable to attrition. And you have Horn Drill. Horn Drill for 4 energy, you get to deal 70. Because you're investing 4 energy into this, I don't think it's worth doing 70. 70 seems like a lot, but Rhydon will get hit about twice, and so that's 4 energy down the drain. What I really like though is Rhyperior. I think it is definitely a valid strategy to rush to Rhyperior. Rhyperior has 150 health, and he has 2 really good attacks in my opinion. Rock Shower, you flip 3 coins, does 20 damage times the number of heads, so you're getting about 30 damage per turn using Rock Shower, which means in 2 turns you're dealing an average of 60 damage, and 60 is usually the threshold that benched basic Pokemon have as their HP. So if your opponent has a bunch of benched Pokemon that aren't doing anything for them, you can use Rock Shower and take a couple turns, take a couple prize cards in 2 turns using Rock Shower and not dealing damage necessarily to the thing that they have in front. However, you're saying that's a bad idea because your Rhyperior will be taking damage if you invested so much into it. However, if you use Stone Edge first, Stone Edge does 80 damage plus 40 on a coin flip. You'll be able to usually knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. If your opponent brings up something else that's ready to attack, then your Rhyperior is in a bad place. However, if they don't, if they have just something to stall with, which is usually the case, Rock Shower can get you those prizes that your opponent doesn't think that you can get. So I love Rock Shower. This is a valid strategy in my opinion, rushing to Rhyperior. Trapinch is bad. We don't talk about him. Electrike is pretty interesting, specifically Manectric. Manectric has 100 HP, which is particularly good, but it's not bad. Lightning Turn for 2 energy, you get to deal 30 damage. Then you move this Pokemon from the active position to your bench, and you switch it with somebody. Electric Shock is also in a similar situation, or is also a situational attack. Electric Shock for 3 energy, you get to deal 70 damage to your opponent, which is great. You paralyze your opponent, which is great, and you discard all electric energy attached to this Pokemon, which really sucks. However, this means that you can set up your Pokemon or your opponent's Pokemon for a knockout next turn by using Electric Shock, paralyzing it in place, and then switching out this Manectric with something that can deal that last remaining damage. So I like Manectric. It's very situational, not particularly useful, but I think it has a lot of character. I really like this card. However, I don't see a lot of opportunities to use it. That's what I'm trying to say. Tynamo is pretty bad. However, Electric is it's a pretty good attacker. In my opinion, it's one of the best attackers in this deck. So Electric, you have 90 HP, which isn't particularly good. Gnaw for 2 energy, which isn't good at all. And then Buzz Flip. Buzz Flip is really why you play Electric. For 3 energy, you get to deal 30 damage times the number of heads on 4 coin flips. So that means you're dealing an average of 60 damage per turn with a maximum of 120. You do get those occasional flops, but I think it's worth risking. As I said, this is a very coin flipping heavy deck. So you have to kind of expect that. You have to play aggressively, in my opinion, to get the most out of this deck, because if you try to set up the best plays, then you will lose. And if you don't get your coin flips anyway, you're going to lose anyway. So you have to kind of play aggressively, in my opinion, and utilize those coin flips. Bibarel is, again, a Pokemon that I talk about. Bidoof is not, so we're going to skip him. Bibarel has 120 HP. Continuous Headbutt is the attack we're going to look at. Yawn puts the opponent's active Pokemon to sleep, which you can stall with. However, Continuous Headbutt is really one of the most dynamic attacks, most fun attacks in this deck. Continuous Headbutt does 80 damage times the number of time the number of heads, and you flip a coin until you get tails. I've gotten 320 damage on this using this attack. However, I have also gotten 0 as countless times, especially when you need it the most. So Continuous Headbutt is a all or nothing attack, and it's very fun. It's not good. I'd like to make that distinction right now. It is not good. Zigzagoon is also a card that we don't like to talk about. Laloon is something I guess we have to talk about. I don't really like Laloon. Laloon has 90 HP, which again isn't particularly interesting, and has to attack Fury Swipes. Fury Swipes is 30 damage times number of heads on 3 coin flips. Sorry, times the number of heads on 3 coin flips. So that's something that we can talk about. Dash Attack deals 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so you can potentially snipe something on the bench. Not worth talking about. Now let's go into the items. First item's Acrobike. Acrobike, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand, put the other one in the discard pile. It's okay. It's an item card that allows you to draw some more cards. Evo Soda. Evo Soda is great. It allows you to get your evolved Pokemon out, which you kind of need to do. Fresh Water Set seems amazing. Heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. So if you have a lot of benched Pokemon that have damage on them, you can use Fresh Water Set, clear off all that damage, and it's really good. However, there's not a lot of opportunities to have bench damage on this deck. A lot of the Pokemon that you have require 3 or 4 energies to be discarded to retreat, which means once they go up there, they're never coming down. You can also use this again with Groudon to get out those the break grounds with no effect to your deck. However, you only get one of these cards. It's very rare that you're going to have that combo set up, so I wouldn't rely on it. Professor's Letter. I love Professor's Letter in these decks. They allow you to get your energy and allow so much flexibility. Pokemon Center Lady heals 60 damage, remove all special conditions from one of your Pokemon. From one of your Pokemon. This allows you to keep your high health Pokemon out there longer. Your Groudons, your Rhyperiors. You want to use this very effectively to surprise your opponent. It's a pretty good card, in my opinion, for themed decks. Pokemon Fan Club. I love Pokemon Fan Club. It allows you to get your basic Pokemons out so you can start evolving. Birch's Observation. I'd rather have a Sycamore. This card does nothing that I want. You can draw 7 cards, which is great. However, you have the potential to draw 4 cards, which is really bad. And usually you want to discard the cards that are in your hand, but instead they go back to your deck. So Professor Birch, I'd rather have a Sycamore. Teammates is amazing. This is kind of like bipolar supporter line. You have good things and bad things, good things and bad things. But Teammates is one of the best, because what happens is your opponent's going to knock out one of your Pokemon eventually. And when they do, you are guaranteed to have a stellar turn. What you do is you play teammates, you search your card, or you search your deck for 2 cards, put them into your hand, and then you are guaranteed to do exactly what you want. It's a really good card. Next card we're going to talk about is Tierno. He's a draw card. So again, we have that really bad supporter. Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth is great. Scorched Earth is terrible. It sounds like it's going to be great, but it is terrible. And here's why. A lot of these cards, or a lot of these attacks, require 3 or 4 energy. So you will need all of the energy that you can get. And Scorched Earth sounds amazing in that you can discard your energy and draw some more cards to fuel your hands. But most of the time, I'd rather get up another attacker. In my opinion, it's not worth using Scorched Earth, as I need these attackers to come up, and I need them to be able to use their big attacks. You also get 12 fighting energy and 6 electric energy, and now we're going to go into a game. Our game for this video is against Azure-Rouge, who's playing the Dark Hammer theme deck, which is popular because of its high win rate. The Earth Pulse theme deck doesn't have that high of a win rate. A lot of it is luck reliant, as many of the attacks rely on getting heads on coin flips. I don't recommend this. On my honest opinion, I wish Pokemon would stop making these theme decks, as I don't think they're very fun to play. So it looks like I'm going to have to start out with the Rhyhorn. I do get to go first, which is great because that means I can use Takedown on my first attacking turn. I have a pretty good hand here. I have a lot of energy, which is great. I have some supporters, which is wonderful. I wish I had Rhydon and Rhyperior. That would make this so much better than it already is. Luckily, my opponent doesn't have a stellar start either. He has a Hitmonlee, which cannot attack me if I have nothing on the bench. That's why I pulled my Meta Knight back. So now I'm going to start dealing damage to the Meta Knight. There's no real rush, in my opinion. I have some Rhyhorns that I can throw down, I guess. But I really wish I played that. I wish I had something else in hand to start evolving. Or maybe a Groudon to get things going. It doesn't look like I'm going to draw that, though. I drew a Tierno. It looks like this Rhyhorn's going to die. This Rhyhorn will trade enough with the Hitmonlee before he goes down that I can knock out the Hitmonlee for basically free, which is great. But really, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Now, my opponent did get a Landorus, and I don't really like Landorus, as Sky Lariat is a very strong attack in the early game. But that's okay. I'm going to hope that I pull a Medicham, and before my opponent can knock out my Meta Knight. So, it looks like I did get a Groudon, and I did get a Rhyhorn. So I can potentially power up this Rhyhorn and get things going. Again, Rush to Rhyperior is a strat, in my opinion. It's a strategy that this deck can do, and that's a strategy that I think does work for this deck, because Rhyperior is very strong. He does use a lot of coin flips, but all of these cards do. So I'm going to stall until I can get out with my Rhyhorn. Hope to draw a Rhyperior and see what happens. Now, I put up my Rhyhorn here. I don't know if I want to attack. I can deal 50 damage to it using Takedown. However, my opponent will be able to knock out my Landorus next turn. My opponent sees the threat of the Rhydon in the active slot and decides that he thinks that the Rhydon is a big threat that he can't take in one turn, so he's going to retreat the Landorus, which is pretty cheap, and try to conserve it for the later. I luckily drew that Rhyperior, and now I'm in business. I was afraid the Mind Fu was going to evolve into a Mind Shao and remove all the damage, so I wanted to knock that out as soon as possible. My opponent realizes that he cannot take this Rhyperior out in one turn, so he's going to try to chip away at it, first using this Pangoro, which has a weakness to fighting, so it will go down, and then finish it off using the Rhyperior, which has kind of been his fallback card for the entire game. So now, because I had that Pokemon Center Lady in hand, his strategy no longer is as effective as it should have been, and he's going to try to stall. Now, as I have Rhyperior out, I love it when my opponents stall, because that allows me to deal some bench damage using Rock Shower. So that's what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, it looks like I whiff on my first Rock Shower. However, Scraggy has a 2 retreat cost, so I'm not afraid of him retreating and giving away my position. Norton, thank you for that ad. In response for me not paying you to block other people's ads, you supply me with your own. I appreciate that. So now, again, it looks like I have this Stone up. I'm able to get Rock Shower down and just continuously Rock Shower. I could Stone Edge, get guaranteed shot, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to Rock Shower, grab those last 2 prizes with the from the bench. Thank you, Azure Drake, for the game, and I hope that you enjoyed this video.